welcome back. My name is India and I happen to read a lot, and welcome to spring. We have actually been in spring for a month, so this is a very belated spring reading Rex video for you. Every season I like to sit down and recommend some books that I've read that I think fit the season really well, or books that I'm really excited to read in that season. Like I said, we're about halfway through spring now, and I've only managed to finally sit down and collate some books for you. April already, and how many days are we in now? We are literally 15 days into April, and I just want you to know that so much change has happened in the last handful of days. So the fact that I'm still able currently right now to sit and record and process all of my thoughts and feelings, I think is yay, you know? So today we're going to be talking about all the books that I think would be good and I would recommend to read in the season of spring. We are slowly getting towards my favourite two seasons, which is summer and autumn. I like that time where summer ends and autumn begins, but that's besides the point. But yep, we're going to dive in. We've got a big array of different books to talk about today. So let's jump in. I can yap, we know this. Let's start. So first up is The Apothecary Diaries. This is by Natsu Hyugga, and the art is by Neko Karage, who is currently in jail for tax evasion in Japan. Interesting. This follows Mao Mao. Mao Mao is an aspiring apothecary who, for reasons I don't really understand, and they don't explain that well in the first volume, but I'm guessing they will elaborate on, she's being blackmailed and she's been kidnapped and she's in the inner palace working as a lowly servant, and she is having to send all of her money to her blackmailers. Crazy. Anyway, the main focus of volume 1 is that she solves the mystery to do with the illnesses of the concubine's children. And she solves that very, very quickly. And her skills for herbal medicine and her skills for solving mysteries brings her to the attention of the mysterious Jinshi. And it's all about her living her life, growing her apothecary skills and solving mysteries in the inner palace. It's super fun, it's super funny, it's kind of horny in a way that you don't really expect, I will say. Mao Mao is a really, really interesting, stubborn, intelligent young woman, and I really, really like her as a character. And I went into this having seen loads of clips from the anime, thinking it seemed quite interesting. It blew me away, this first volume. I now own up to volume 5, and I'm very adamant that probably in May I'm going to read as much of those volumes as one woman can. It is such a good series. There is a delay though, obviously, because the artist is in jail. But very, very good. Now, I think I might have mentioned this one in my last spring recommendations video, so I'm really sorry if there's some crossover. But next up is Your Lie in April. This is by Naoshi Arakawa. This is the 3-in-1 volume one here. And if you've seen last year's manga and graphic novel, My Faves of the Year, you know that this was in this. I can't remember what place it came, but it was in it. It was in my top 5. And this is a really, really beautiful, slightly melancholic story. This follows Kosei. Kosei is, when he was younger, was a flourishing piano prodigy. But behind closed doors, people didn't know that he was this skilled and this talented due to being raised in a strict, abusive household by his mother. At the beginning of the book, we find out that Kosei's mother has passed away, and Kosei has incredibly conflicted feelings about his mother's death and his connection and relationship to music, until he meets Kaori. Kaori is a viola, I think also a violinist, but also a prodigy, and they meet, and it's about how their relationship and how she brings the love of music back into his life. It is so beautiful, and they recommend pieces of music to listen to while you read, and it just really is just an incredible reading experience. It is so beautiful, so fun. It really makes you, and one thing I really like about books, but specifically manga that's about a specific hobby, it really makes you want to get your own hobby. It doesn't have to be music, but it just really makes you want to be passionate about something and have something that you care about and that is yours. And this just does a great job of it. I've read the first 2 volumes. I do own the second omnibus collection, which I'm excited but also scared to read, and I won't elaborate why. But this is really, really good. Obviously, it's set in April, which is in spring. On the nose. Next up, and if you have seen my quarterly reading check-in, you know that this was actually my favourite book that I've read so far this year. This is Yesteryear by Caro Burke. This follows a young woman called Natalie. She wakes up one day randomly in this really olden day American 1800s looking house with a man that looks like her husband but isn't, and kids that look like her kids but aren't, and she's incredibly confused. One thing you need to know about Natalie is a trad wife influencer. She spent a good number of years curating this aesthetic about the nuclear family and stay-at-home mums and all of this, which all in itself, you know, my mum was a stay-at-home mum for years. I love stay-at-home mums. But she creates this unachievable false life. And she also has some very, very questionable views and morals. And we follow her in 2 different stories. We follow her when she's 18, and we learn all about her upbringing, how she met her husband, her children, her relationship with her in-laws, all the way up to the day before she randomly wakes up in this olden house and has to learn, olden day house, and has to learn what it's like to actually be a trad wife. And you don't know whether she's gone back in time or whether she's on a reality show. It's very, very weird, but it's so good. I've coined this year the year of unlikable protagonists. I've read a couple of books this year so far with unlikable protagonists that I've just been obsessed with. And she's just really well written. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I think it takes a lot of nuance to write unlikable characters where the reader wants to keep on reading. I do not support anything she says or does in this book, but I can't tear my eyes away from her narrative. Then we have a favourite from last year. This is Isabella Nagy and the Pot of Basil by Oliver Darkshire. I was going to say Basil then, and all I could picture was my dad in the back of my mind going, that's how the Americans say it. This is a really, really fun, quirky, just bizarre fantasy following a young woman who steals a magical tome from a wizard and does a magical spell on a pot of basil. It starts talking, and that is the beginning of a domino effect of her entire village going insane and her having to save the day. If you like Terry Pratchett books where everything is so bizarre and hilarious but has a really good meaning to it, I would highly recommend this. I loved this book. Not many books make me laugh. There's a lot of things where people go, oh, this book's so funny. I don't know what it is. If you say a book's funny, I don't trust you. I don't know what it is, but trust me this time when I say if you want something that's very quick, very funny, really lighthearted, and genuinely just full of joy, read this. And then finally, another one on the old quarterly reading check-in list, we have Tusk Love. This is by Thea Guanzon. This is a romantasy book. I mentioned numerous times how I don't read much romantasy and I really, really want to start reading more romantasy. This is a really, really fun romantasy. If you've watched my reading check-in, you will know my connections with romantasy and how I like my romantasy to be basically like every contemporary romantasy ever. You put it in a fantasy world. Less saving the day and saving the kingdom, and more, I'm a merchant's daughter who needs to get to this location. You're a blacksmith who's going to be my private bodyguard on this road trip, and we may fall in love. Kind of lower stakes romantasy is what I'm more interested in. And Tusk Love fits the bill and ticks all the boxes. It has great characters, great chemistry, great use of a fantastical world and a magic system, super fun and exciting and exhilarating. You can read it in like 2 days. The paperback is out. If you are going on holiday and you haven't found a book that you want to read, I would highly recommend this. We follow Gwen. Gwen, as I said, she's a merchant's daughter. She also has sorcerer-esque abilities where she has fire powers due to having a connection with a fire demon in her soul. And the dynamic between those two is incredible. She is on her way to this city across the country to marry this lord, and after getting attacked by bandits, she asks the help of the very gorgeous half-orc Oscar, who is a blacksmith on his way to meet his orc side of the family after his mother's death, and he decides to scrap that journey of self-discovery and help this poor, defenseless young woman marry this lord. But oh no, it's a romance. Did you know what that means? They're going to fall in love. And it's a fun, crazy, exciting, very spicy road trip romance that everybody should read. And does that not scream spring to you? But there we go. Those are all the books that I would recommend that I have read this spring. We're now going to dive into the books that I haven't read, but I'm excited to read in spring. And maybe you might be interested too. First one up is The Bugle Call Song of War. This is by Mozoku Sora and art by Higuro Tomori. I want to say I was drawn in because I saw a couple of screen grabs of the pages on TikTok. and went into work and was like, oh my God, I saw that on TikTok last night and I bought it. So this, I can only explain, is like if you played a bard, but a bard that was like a war-torn, wartime bard, that's what this character would be. His name, our main character here, is called Luca. When I say one of my favorite kinds of fantasy settings is a kind of olden school medieval Renaissance kind of vibe, but like there was a past civilization that had a lot of technology and a lot of advanced magic that has kind of gone. It makes me think of like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Wheel of Time, a little bit of Lies of Locke Lamora, that kind of vibe. Love it. So this follows Luca. Luca is a bugler? Bugler? He works for a mercenary company and he has the magical ability that not many people know about where he can see the notes of songs. He has like, what's it called? Where you can see colours and stuff when music plays. Oh, there's a sense. I'll put it on the screen. He basically has like a magical version of that. And one day he gets left for dead by his mercenary company, but is saved by a mysterious man called Pontiff, and learns that he's not the only person with unusual powers and that he works with a bunch of these similar individuals who have these magical powers to kind of bring down and stop a war. Super fun, really like it. I am currently playing a bard in my current D&D campaign. She's a sexy old lady elf bard who I love and adore, and her name's Cordelia and she's great. And I just felt called to my bard son, Luca. So next one, and I keep saying every year that I'm going to read more non-fiction, and I do desperately need to. I have 2-3 shelves now of non-fiction. I didn't think though, having read non-fiction, I would be an autobiography memoir person, but I've recently learned that I am. And one of my next memoirs that I want to read is How Korean Corn Dogs Changed My Life by Alice Amelia. A couple of years ago, I read Abroad in Japan by Chris Broad, and that was all about his life moving to Japan, his experiences, where he is now, things that he's taken away. And I've always wanted to go to Japan. And I was like, oh, it's quite cool to learn about like an Englishman's point of view of moving to Japan. And now we have the Korean version with Alice Amelia's How Korean Corn Dogs Changed My Life. It's a memoir about this young woman who obviously moves to Korea, and it's about her life and her career. I think she did like modeling. I actually realized once I saw a photo of her that I followed her on Instagram. I was like, oh, I actually do know this person. I followed her journey for a little bit. But yeah, it's all about her life, what she's learned, what she enjoys, what she doesn't enjoy, her career in Korea, and what is that like. And I am someone who would really like to at one point go to South Korea, and this will be like a little bit of an insight. And again, I don't know what it is. In regards to spring, it just gives off that vibe. I think once we get to the summer, I'm like, oh, travel. Spring and summer makes me think of travel. Where do I want to go next? Oh my God, I fucked up majorly. I just realized I actually have read this book. Whoopsie! So the next one is The Kamigawa Food Detectives by Hisashi Kashiwai, which I've read. I cocked that one right up, didn't I? This is, for those who like Before the Coffee Gets Cold and things like that, I would like to say that I didn't really care for Before the Coffee Gets Cold, but I did really enjoy this. This follows a father-daughter duo whose whole shtick is that they run this very small, tiny Japanese restaurant. They recreate dishes from somebody's past to help them come to terms with events in their life or recover memories once lost. And I think the reason I like this more than Before the Coffee Gets Cold is it has the same kind of vibe of, melancholic nostalgia and sadness, thinking of things that once have gone and now you can't get back, but also great food writing. And when I tell you, I also read the sequel, which was really good, but I ended up being like, we need to go to a Japanese restaurant, stat, because I need to eat some Japanese food after reading this. But if you are somebody that likes quick, short stories who, sometimes spring, maybe you're busy in spring and you want to read something quick and fast and you can dip in and dip out of, this is great. If you like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, or if you're like, I enjoyed it, but I felt like something was missing, maybe give this one a go. It's really good. It's amazing food writing. And what's the story called? Hold on. Oh, I can't remember. I think it's the Tonkatsu one. Chapter 4, Tonkatsu was the one that got me in my chest. So there we go. Lol, that was meant to be the one I didn't read, but I did. Oopsie. Now for one I didn't read. I promise. This is Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. So this is a queer, not retelling of the Robin Hood story, but kind of like a reimagining. It's a little bit like the one that came under loads of fire a couple of years ago, which I really enjoyed, Sarah Underwood's Lies We Sing to the Sea, which was completely mismarketed by publishers as a retelling of the Odyssey, of which Sarah Underwood then went and did an interview and said that she had not read the Odyssey in its entirety and only read the sections that were important for her book. And then obviously and understandably, everybody got up in arms because it's like, how are you able to get a book published as an Odyssey retelling if you've not read the Odyssey? Because when you read it, I want to cut some slack. When you read it, it's not an Odyssey retelling. It's set 300 years after the events of the Odyssey, focusing on one specific section of the Odyssey and how that impacts the characters later in a fresh new story. Like, it's not a retelling of the Odyssey, and it was completely mismarketed in my opinion. And the poor girl got loads of bloody hate for something that was completely mismarketed. It was a reimagining of one event from the Odyssey set 300 years later. Anyway, same kind of vibe here. This is set maybe like 50 or so years after the events of Robin Hood, and we follow Marielle. Marielle is the granddaughter of Robin Hood, and she and her band of mercenaries kidnap our girl Clem here, who's a healer, I think, a backwards healer. They don't really say why they kidnap her, they just kidnap her. And then Marielle's father, so Robin Hood's son, gets kidnapped, and these two work together to solve the mystery of his kidnapping and save him and all of this. So it's a fun, exciting, Robin Hood-inspired story. I met Lex Croucher a couple of years ago for Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, which I really, really enjoyed, which is another one of those set years after the events of the Knights of the Round Table and how does that affect England now, which I think is a really fun and fresh way to do retellings. I will say, by the time I read Lies We Sing to the Sea, this is not even about Sarah Underwood's getting a shout out today, I remember being so fatigued, like genuinely fatigued by Greek mythology retellings, but I felt that was such an interesting way to do it because you have the foundations of the Greek myths, but it's your own story in its entirety, and I think that's a very good book. That's also what I like about Lex Croucher's YA mythological folklore romanticises, really, if we're being honest, because it takes the bare bones and the foundation of an English myth, an English folk tale that we know so well here in England, and then goes, oh, but let's set it many years later with fresh new characters and a fresh new perspective and a fresh new story, and I love it. And make it queer. And then finally, I think I mentioned this author's other book in my Spring Recommends last year. So we're going on to her most recent book. This is Where Shadows Bloom by Catherine Bakewell. This is another romantasy. Look at me with my romantasy Rex. I'm a changed woman. So this is a queer romantasy. It follows Ophelia and I believe her name is Lope. They live in a world where the shadows and like creepy monsters threaten the lives of people every day. And Ophelia dreams of moving to King Leo or King Leo's, depending how you pronounce that, I'm not sure, his castle, and living a life there without fear of these monsters. Ophelia is like a rich, noble woman's daughter, and Lope is her best friend / kind of bodyguard. One thing about me, I love a bodyguard trope. Oh, I love it. I think it's so... Bodyguard trope in any form of romance. Or not even a romance. Maybe it's just a small subplot into something else. It's incredible. Ophelia's mother sets off to the castle to appeal to King Leo about bringing her family in and looking after them or doing something about these monsters, but Mum never returns. So Ophelia and Lope decide they themselves are going to head off and find out what happened to her mother, and then they end up at the castle and it's all politics and creepy monsters and queer love. And hopefully it's good. I haven't read it. But come on, doesn't that cover Speak and Sing Spring? Because it does to me. So yeah, other things are really good. I haven't read any of her stuff, but I hope it's good because I really like the look of it. So there we go. These are the books that I decided that I would recommend. Okay, turns out it's 6 books I've read, not 5 and 5, but 6 books I've read and 4 haven't. Here's a really bad stack. We are together forever. And there we go. I hope you've taken something from this. I hope you think to yourself, wow, what an interesting collection of books. What an eclectic taste India has, because you're not wrong. And yeah, there we go. I am off to go read a fun murder mystery and edit this video. And also, I've just thought of a really interesting, it's just right up here, video for next week, if I have enough time to record. I don't know. A lot of things are going on. So give or take a week or so. But yeah, Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. And hopefully you found something from here that you want to read. Bye.